Good evening. Welcome to the Kent City Council special meeting for Monday, September 23rd, 2024. If you could all please rise and join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Kim, if you could please call the roll.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor Ralph.
Here.
Council President Kaur.
Here.
Councilmember Boyce.
Here.
Councilmember Boyd.
Here.
Councilmember Fincher.
Here.
Councilmember Larmer.
Here.
Councilmember Michaud.
Here.
Councilmember Troutner.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. All right, we have one item on our agenda for this special meeting, and it's the 2025-2026 biennial budget message presentation. I am going to move over there to the podium, and we'll get this show started. Immediately following this meeting, or I guess beginning at 5:30, the council will go into workshop to have any initial questions answered, receive their budget materials, and lay out the schedule for the upcoming meetings as we move forward. Okay. All right, good evening again. We've just changed spots. I want to start with Council President Kaur, members of the City Council, Kent residents. I am very proud tonight to present the 2025-26 biennial budget. This proposed budget was prepared in collaboration with all of you, the City Council, all of our city departments, and a multitude of engagement with our Kent residents. As a result of that collaboration, I firmly believe that this budget is a roadmap that reflects the values of our organization and its commitment to our community. It is why I am grateful that we as city leaders share values that center around benefiting our residents, business, and visitors. I want to thank the council for its teamwork and commitment to improvement so that we can continue to make Kent a place that we are all very proud of. Over the last several years, inflation has played a major role in our decision-making process. We are all very aware of the impacts of inflation from our personal budgets all the way up through what we're seeing here at the city. With CPIW for the Seattle-Tacoma-Bellevue area coming in at 40-year record high numbers, we recognize a growth in expenditures would be imminent. Over the past several years, we have certainly seen expenditures grow rapidly. Inflation has exacerbated the city's structural imbalance as labor contracts are tied, at least in part, to CPIW. Outside of salaries and benefits, operation and project costs are on the rise as well. Earlier this year, knowing that inflation was going to impact the 25-26 biennial budget, Council, along with our directors, agreed to maintain a status quo budget for this biennium. All of those conversations we had at the council retreat. You will see that this budget does exactly that, as well as provide several options for restoration and stabilization. It was agreed that any budget request would be accompanied by a revenue stream or an expenditure reduction to support it, and we collectively agreed to no new initiatives. This budget that you're going to be presented honors all of those agreements that we had from earlier this year. Within the $884 million total 25-26 biennial budget, $259 million is allocated to the general fund. The proposed general fund budget has been established with the intent to use some of the city's reserves in the general fund to balance the budget in both 25 and 26. Our reserves are above the required minimums, and this is the kind of use that they were intended for. Very, very grateful for the work that past councils did to get those reserves built back up. So let's talk about some specifics. We've continued our commitment to equity in city projects, programs, and service delivery. The Race and Equity Division worked closely with community stakeholders and staff to develop the Council's Race and Equity Strategic Plan, and we've been working through actionable steps of that plan. This budget includes the use of ARPA funding to extend the Race and Equity Coordinator temporary limited term position through 2026. This position will continue to support the mandatory Title VI reporting on behalf of the city and serve as a consultant to departments to assist in equity-related matters while assisting in the implementation of that Race and Equity Strategic Plan. Move on to public safety. The city will continue to be at the forefront of transparency and accountability in law enforcement. Recent laws on police reform changed how the department recruits police officers, interacts with our community, and provides service. The department expanded its recruiting efforts and as a result has been able to attract qualified and diverse recruits. Over the last year, the police department has been able to be fully staffed to the available budget. That continues to be a really important part of that sentence. We're fully staffed to our budget. But we know it is well established that Washington has the lowest rate of officers per capita as compared with other states in the nation, and the city of Kent is amongst the lowest in the state. Therefore, even at fully budgeted staffing, Kent has a significant need for additional officers. To remedy this, earlier this year, the city's one and only legislative priority was to empower the City Council to increase the sales tax councilmanically to fund public safety. If this had passed, it would have given us an opportunity to fund our police department, bringing our force up to just about average in the state of Washington. Not asking for the sun and the stars in that, just to get us to average. Unfortunately, it did not pass. It did not make it to the floor for a vote in the legislature, and we still have that same need for funding for additional police officers. This budget does include a modest increase in the B&O tax, and as a way to help mitigate some immediate needs in our police department. Lay out some of those specific things that are in this plan. Over 50 of our 167 commissioned officers have a tenure of 3 years or less. We have a lot of brand new officers in our police department. This has increased the responsibility of our sergeants who have the duty to provide direct supervision, mentoring, and development of these officers. That, coupled with the changes in policing, have impacted the workload for our sergeants. The current 9 officers per sergeant ratio is unrealistic and unsustainable. This budget includes the addition of 2 sergeants along with 1 officer, which will reduce the sergeant to officer ratio to 1 sergeant per 5 officers. The 3 new positions will support the patrol division, giving the department the ability to have a slightly increased presence on the street and handling 911 calls. Funding has also been added to the budget to add a correctional sergeant, allowing them the ability to supervise, mentor, and develop our correctional officers instead of being pulled in to work a post. With this additional position, 2 correction sergeants will be available to work each shift, and while these additions will not get us anywhere near the staffing levels that we need, it will help mitigate some of those immediate needs. We will continue our efforts with the legislature for additional funding options to fund our police department to necessary levels. Those conversations are already in the works with our legislative delegation. State-level police reform bills have made apprehending criminal suspects significantly more challenging. In our continued response to regionally increasing crime, this budget does include funding for advanced technology to fight and investigate crime. We use drones daily for in-progress calls and crime scene investigation. The drones we currently have are past their operational life and have operational security issues as well. This budget includes funding to replace 3 drones per year. In addition, this budget includes the purchase of the Fusus platform. Fusus is a real-time crime center platform that provides the ability for businesses and residents to allow the police department to access security cameras that they may have. They pay a small fee, and they're given a box that plugs into their private cameras. The department does not have unrestricted access to the cameras. They will only be able to see cameras that are a part of the Fusus Crime Center. But if an incident does occur in the view of these cameras that are a part of this program, our detectives will be able to pull video from those cameras and pull them right into that Fusus system. They won't be doing the back and forth and loading videos onto thumb drives and bringing them back to the department to investigate. And we truly believe that this program will save our detectives hundreds of hours a year. In 2022, the budgeted portion of House Bill 1590 sales tax, again, thank you to the council for making that decision to make sure that that money came here to the city. The decision was made to use that funding to support our co-responder program. With those funds, the city partnered with Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority to participate in the FD Cares program. This program is ongoing and will be included in the 25-26 budget. With grant funding in the last year, we were also able to partner with Project Be Free, an organization that is serving all of King County since 2022. Their focus is on serving the entire family affected by domestic violence and has had a dramatic effect on all those contacted, including our officers. We've heard Council President Kaur talked a little bit about Project Be Free at the last meeting. We've had our department come in and present on the great work that they're doing. With the grant dollars coming to an end, this budget proposal does include $185,000 a year to continue the use of this service. This funding will provide dedicated staffing from Project Be Free to Kent and to our residents. It's just another step in our commitment to that co-responder model. In the short term that it's been instituted, we've seen dramatically positive effects on both the residents that are receiving these services, the families, the offenders, as well as the tools that it provides our officers when they're responding to those domestic violence calls. While it's too early in the program to grade effectiveness on recidivism, we truly do believe that we will be able to show hard data that corresponds to recidivism going down for domestic violence defendants that have been served by Project Be Free. Next item in public safety, the police department has recently created a professional standards unit. This unit is responsible for handling complaints that come into the department. Currently, it is a largely manual process to review complaints, comply with public records request requirements, and track trends and look for common issues. To make efficiencies and ensure transparency in how complaints are resolved, this budget includes funding to implement the professional standards suite, which is available in Power DMS. Power DMS is the system that the police department currently uses for policies and for their SOPs or standard operating procedures. The professional standards suite securely manages internal affairs cases, has an early intervention program, and has forms that allow for easy tracking of things like use of force and pursuits. On to officer wellness. I think this is something that's very important to all of us. It's like when you get on the airplane, we say put your oxygen mask on first so you can help someone else. We need to make sure that our officers are healthy so that they can continue to take care of our community. It's very important in their ability to be able to protect and serve. We support our officers' mental and physical well-being through access to holistic wellness services. This budget includes $30,000 to expand opportunities available to our officers for wellness visits with licensed mental health providers. The police officer's role is stressful, emotionally draining, and physically taxing. Research has shown that police wellness programs reduce on-the-job injuries, improve retention, and help with recruitment. Additionally, maximizing wellness in police staff protects our significant investment in our officers, in the training, equipment, and other costs that are associated with personnel. Moves us into some of the highlights under courts and law. So the workload of our probation officers has increased significantly as we've seen a rise in mental health and drug cases which require more intensive supervision. They're just more complicated. This budget includes the addition of a probation officer to help with the increased demands of the job, including providing support for general probation services, mental health caseloads, and our growing and in a positive way DUI and community court programs. I know it's something that Council strongly supports. The municipal court has been awarded a $75,000 grant from the Washington Traffic Safety Commission to cover half the costs of this additional probation officer in 2025. There's no guarantee that will come back again, but the budget does have the remainder of that position in 25 being paid for by a shift in the opioid settlement dollars. So that money that we have been seeing come in from those settlements across the country. The proposed budget also includes the addition of an assistant city attorney for the civil division beginning in 2026. The civil attorneys have been managing increased workload in both volume and complexity. That tends to be a theme. The work that we are doing here as a city is getting more complex in every single area. It's due to priority being given to several large and simultaneous projects, along with code enforcement issues relating to problem properties. Think Phoenix Court, the amount of work. You all saw the binders that Victoria had regarding that work. Other issues such as an increase in encampment-related issues, major projects going on in the city, and state legislation that's contrary to current city policies and governance have also added to that workload. Again, the volume and complexity of the work is necessitating the need for this additional civil attorney. Economic and community development. The city's permit center continues to realize demands for service beyond their capacity with current staffing levels. Beginning in 2025, Washington cities will be required to comply with unfunded state mandates that include shortened permit issuance times. So those are a good thing, but it comes at a cost. It means that we've got more work to do in a shorter amount of time. Both reporting requirements will increase and penalties will apply if timeliness requirements are not met. We are looking for a new position in the permit center offset by the revenues generated by the permit center. This budget converts an expiring temporary limited term TLT permit technician position to a permanent position. These mandates are not going away, and we're going to need that ongoing support. The budget also converts 2 additional TLT positions to permanent ones, one long-range planner and the other a current planner. And finally, the budget includes a new position within the Economic and Community Development Department to administer the city's floodplain certification program, something that's very important, especially to our residents and businesses that are in the valley. A portion of this position will be paid for out of the drainage fund. All right, Parks and Recreation. Kent Parks' newly developed asset management system opens unprecedented opportunities to analyze and optimize Parks' operational workflow, assess the condition of assets, evaluate Parks' performance. This innovative system is a direct result of the dedicated efforts of the GIS analyst position. GIS analyst is essential in managing our assets and providing technical support for all geospatial data created within our system. So we've been able to develop a comprehensive map of our assets and all of the different things that go into them. This role ensures accurate collection, maintenance, and analysis of spatial data, which is crucial for informed decision making. This budget converts the expiring TLT to a permanent position, allowing the Parks Department to operationalize and optimize efficiencies by streamlining maintenance schedules, prioritizing repairs, and allocating resources more effectively. It will enhance asset condition monitoring through regular assessment and document the condition of those park assets, helping us to identify potential issues before they become larger problems. It's that whole idea, if you can maintain things and stay on that regular schedule, it is less expensive than having to replace them. We'll be able to track park performance by tracking and analyzing usage and visitor satisfaction, and it will also foster community engagement through the use of interactive maps and data visualization to engage with our community, soliciting feedback and promoting parks programs and events. This budget also extends a TLT Parks Coordinator position at the Senior Center through 2026, allowing the Parks Department to review its business model for the Senior Center and create a long-term viable solution for the center that we will be bringing back to Council in either the mid-biennial budget adjustment or for the next biennial budget. Budget also extends a TLT Facilities Capital Projects Manager, which is currently slated to expire in May of 25 for an additional 3 years. We've got large projects such as the Kent East Hill Operations Center, or KEHOC, and there is no doubt that additional support will be needed as we move all of these projects going forward. The Kent Commons Community Center currently has a part-time program assistant who supports community education programming, handling essential tasks such as contracts and billings, payments, onboarding, coverage, special events, recitals, and more. The demands on this position have grown significantly and the workload has exceeded what is a part-time position can be managed effectively. So to address this issue, the budget increases this position from part-time to a full-time position. The adjustment will create a sustainable workload, allow for consistent office coverage, as well as the ability to manage duties effectively during things like lunch breaks when someone's out on vacation or sick leave. To cover the increased cost for this position, the Parks Department has reduced its part-time line items within the Recreation Division. The result will ensure that our common staff can meet the growing demands efficiently and continue to provide high-quality service to our community. We know that with the renovations at the Commons, we're going to start seeing even more people using that space, and this is an important position to that. In 2023, dedicated staff hours were allocated for encampment management as a part of our natural resources team, with the expectation that those additional staff hours would provide the necessary resources. Unfortunately, the demand for encampment response is only getting higher, currently consuming 65% of available staff time. It is a large portion of the work. These are the same staff resources that are responsible for things like trail maintenance and community stewardship events via our Green Kent program. Again, something that I know is extremely important to council and our community. Annually, 10 to 15 locations require contracted services with typical costs ranging from $3,000 to $5,000 a day for 1 to 2 days of work, not including those variable disposal costs. So it's really expensive to clean up these encampments. To effectively manage this ongoing issue, the budget includes an additional $75,000 a year for contracted encampment cleanup services. Kemp Parks, through its Recreational and Cultural Services Division, proudly delivers the Spotlight Series. We hear Councilmember Fincher report on that at each one of our meetings. This series brings a diverse range of performers to our community and really enriches our community's cultural landscape. The performances serve an estimated 2,500 to 3,000 people annually. What we are seeing is the associated cost of these events has risen sharply. Again, that seems to be a theme across the board. This budget does include an increase of $55,000 a year for the Spotlight Series to ensure that we are able to attract and contract with robust cultural performers that continue to benefit the entire community. This increased cost is offset by a reduction in underutilized budget items in the Parks Department, so not new money. This is good news, but it also comes again with that other side. The use of our parks has been increasing and changing rapidly over the last several years. This requires our delivery of services to evolve. In 2024, our Parks Department explored a one-time pilot in which it used contracted security to provide support and maintenance at high-use parks like Lake Meridian, Van Dorens, Hogan at Russell Road, and West Fenwick. This program has been successful. The current use of the contract security services to supplement park staff securing both park buildings and parking lots has already shown a reduction in that illicit use after park hours. While it has not eliminated all of the issue, it is a positive step forward in helping to bring down the needed police response when we've got neighbors that are saying, hey, there's a party going on in the parking lot of the park. We're seeing those incidents come down as we're able to gate and lock those areas. The program currently includes the lockup of park restroom buildings and parking lots at 28 locations to discourage this outside of normal hours use. The budget does include $50,000 per year to include this or to continue this program. Safety and security of our employees and facilities have been at the forefront of our minds as we've continued moving our park system forward, but we have seen an increased growth in things like theft, vandalism, and acts of violence. We are seeing vandalism occur regularly at several park locations, and the repair and replacement of things like doors, restroom dividers, lighting, and other elements of parks facilities are straining our existing budgets. Because of this, we are dedicating $50,000 a year to cover the increased costs in this area. It's a sad reality, but something that we need to do. We need to be able to maintain our parks at a level that our community can enjoy, and this is part of what these increased costs entail. All right, moving on to finance. Over the last couple of years, we have worked to increase, like I said, employee safety through upgraded security measures at our facilities, having field staff double up when working in high-risk areas, and distributing staff safety videos, implementing training, and we even put a pepper spray policy into effect this last year. Our meter reading staff are no different. They're a very public-facing group here in the city, and they're experiencing safety issues in the field while they're not only reading meters but shutting off delinquent accounts. At its current staffing levels, the meter reader group is unable to double up in some of these areas due to a growing number of meters. Again, growth is a good thing. We're seeing more, but we are also seeing an increase in those delinquent accounts that are requiring shut-off. This budget includes the addition of a meter reader to allow for better workflow, a more manageable workload for city meter staff, and the ability to double up on those routes where needed, increasing safety of our employees. Public Works. Our Drainage Fund employees have close to 400 sites to mow and trim during the growing season. In the past, we've tried to use temporary positions to help with this work, but unfortunately it is getting increasingly difficult to retain and attract for these temporary type positions, knowing that people are really looking for that permanent full-time employment. When we have those losses in that temporary staff, it leaves our crews short-staffed and unable to maintain the sites that the drainage vegetation team is responsible for. Using funding from the temporary positions budget, this budget includes the addition of a permanent full-time drainage vegetation maintenance position. This proposed budget also extends a TLT design engineer, which is set to expire in June of 25. This position will continue to support current and upcoming work. As you all know, and we celebrate a lot, the city's been successful in our grant applications and has been awarded grants from regional funding partners such as the Transportation Improvement Board and the Puget Sound Regional Council. This position of this design engineer that's being converted will ensure we can continue to deliver on our current commitments without adding the costly expenses of a consultant. So again, you've got to be able to spend the money to be able to be successful in those grants, and we need to make sure that we're staying on track. With the use of some of our fleet fund balance, this budget includes the replacement of 13 pieces of major equipment for both parks and public works for assets that are past their useful life and are in need of replacement. These things include mowers, tractors, wood chippers, flatbed trailers, portable light towers, those kinds of things. So looking at using that fleet fund balance to replace some of this bigger equipment. Finally, this budget includes investments in the city's capital program. So East Hill North Community Park, Council, you just had a presentation.
This is the 16th annual International Festival. More booths, more food, more performances, and so many happy people. We have people from all over the world here sharing their culture with all of the residents of Kent, and I just think that feels like a very Kent thing.
The short history is that we started in 2009. When we first started the festival, it was a joint project with the City of Kent and with the Kent Farmers Market. Since 2014, we're now at ShowWare, and we've been here ever since. We've expanded over the years because we always survey and we ask, what do our attendees want? And that's what we try to provide.
This is one of the biggest things that could happen in our community because it brings all of us together to really showcase our own uniqueness. And when you come over here, you just expand your knowledge, you expand your taste buds, you expand your likes of things, your hobbies. Just like the robotics, it might be something a kid might not be into, and as soon as they see it going, it's going to be there. And same thing with many cultures. Be able to talk to people, be able to actually ask questions, get clarifications, and then that's how we grow as a community and be able to kind of be a diverse Kent community.
Next year is going to be the 17th Annual International Festival. Put it on your calendars early, come down. I promise you it will be one of the best days of summer, and there will be so many fun things to do, people to see, and a lot to learn.
Multimodal enhancements would also be improved at this location. And in order to be ready to take advantage of those granting opportunities, and again, very confident that those opportunities will present themselves as we become really good at securing those grants, this budget includes $300,000 for design, showing the grantors that we are ready to build that project is going to be really important. So we think that this $300,000 for design is really that key step in moving that project forward. Technology. It's a good thing, and we need to be able to take care of it. During this biennium, the city will continue to invest in technology by funding hardware and software life cycles at approximately $1.7 million each year, in addition to the $3.4 million in capital projects over the biennium. Many of these improvements are intended to support our IT security zero trust architecture approach. Again, it's in the news all the time. Cybersecurity is something that's extremely important. It can cripple an organization, and we need to be making investments there. So we recently did an IT reorganization that helps us further focus on bolstering our security and contract accountability. Some of the technology improvements include replacement of City Council and committee meeting agenda and video management software. It's all going to be in your books. I'm not going to go through all of the numbers. Updates to Inova, which is our point of sale program, modernization of our Active Directory services, migration of Telestaff, the program that we bought in conjunction with Workday. We need to migrate that to Google Cloud as a part of the the services requirements. We've got integration with Valleycom's new CAD or computer-aided design program, replace and create integrations in the legacy correction jail management system. So we currently have Tiburon. We're moving to a new system, Black Creek. All of these things come with costs and a replacement of the current database to use that we use to manage our stormwater workflows, including our NPDES program and FOG, everybody's favorite fats, oils, and grease programs. We need to make sure that we're able to track and work those through, and so that also comes with a cost. So with that, tonight, Council, I respectfully transmit the 2025 through 2026 budget to the City Council for consideration. There is a tremendous amount of demand for city services. All you have to do is open up your inbox to know that. Right? This community deserves and expects that we provide them with services. Our job as city leaders is to remain fiscally responsible, anticipate our future challenges, and move our city forward. I believe this proposed budget accomplishes all of those obligations. This document is a representation of collaborative efforts, again, between city leadership, city council, city staff, and our community. I would like to extend my gratitude to our CAO, Pat Fitzpatrick, all of our department directors and their staff for the dedication and hard work that put this budget together. I want to say a huge thank you to our finance department, particularly Paula Painter, our finance director, financial planning manager, Michelle Ferguson, and her team, Kathleen McConnell and Shane Sorensen. The amount of work that goes into putting this budget book together, making sure that we get here tonight with something to put in front of you all. I can't understate the number of hours that actually turn into days and weeks when this process starts, and the amount of input and creative thinking that it comes into problem solving, again, with a status quo budget and not having significant new revenue sources. We've got to be really creative in what we can pay for and what we can support and what we can't. So huge thank you goes out to everyone that's involved in putting this budget together. The hard work and collaboration, everyone's willingness to continue to move our city forward. Our residents, businesses, and visitors are counting on it, and they deserve nothing less than our support. So with that, Council, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me drone on for so long. I'm very proud of the work that everyone in our city has put into this proposed budget, and very much looking forward to the conversation over the next series of meetings as you all dive in and make sure that it also meets your needs, and that you are feeling like we're headed in the right direction in what we're funding and the programs that we're supporting. So thank you very, very much. All right, back in the other chair. With that brings us to the end of our agenda for the September 23rd Kent City Council special meeting. And with that, we are adjourned.
Good afternoon and welcome to Kent City Council Special Meeting Workshop for Monday, September 23, 2024. We have one item on our agenda, 2025-2026 biennial budget. Mayor presented the budget earlier in the meeting, and we have our finance director here, Paula Painter, to get us started. Welcome.
Mayor Ralph, and members of City Council. It is that time of year again. Thank you, Mayor, for your presentation just about a minute ago. Great job there. I'm excited to take some time to go through the budget with everybody today. And so I am just going to get everything up and going here for just 1 second, and then I'll be ready. Okay. All right, so in front of you, council members, you should have a binder that'll have your budget book in here. Throughout the presentation, if there is a page in that budget book that you could reference, it's listed in the top of the PowerPoint presentation, so you'll be able to jump to that page because most likely I will forget to tell you what page you want to be on. For those of you who are in the audience, I'm sure you're wondering where your book is. I know you're super excited to get it. It's being printed. So I encourage you, we are posting it online as we speak, or it's there now. So go ahead and you can go out to kentwa.gov, check out the budget book there, follow along there as well. The printed books will be available tomorrow, and we'll be able to get those handed out to those who need it. So I am just going to go ahead and kick this off. Today we're going to go over just a quick economic outlook. We're going to talk about the 2025-26 citywide budget, just a summary level. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail on that. Tonight, we're going to spend most of our time talking about the general fund revenues and expenditures. We'll talk about the timeline and then finally what our next steps are going to be. But it's really crazy to think 6 years ago, the city was facing a fiscal cliff. The 2019-2020 biennial budget process came with a lot of challenges. And as an organization, we were having to make some pretty hard decisions. The city was facing losing streamlined sales tax, mitigation dollars, we call that SST, and also the Panther Lake annexation sales tax credit that we had received for 10 years. Together, that was going to have an impact to our general fund by over $10 million. That was about 10% of general fund revenues back in 2019. We were able to get SST mitigation dollars restored, but that was only a temporary solution because those dollars have been going down by 20% year over year, and effective on June of 2026, we will, after that last payment, will no longer be receiving that money any longer. So back in 2019, we knew that revenue source wasn't going to be around for a while, so we transitioned that from our operating fund and put it in our capital fund. But 2019 and 2020 wasn't the first time that Kent has really faced some true struggles fiscally. In 2008, the streamlined sales tax was implemented. And when that was implemented, Kent was told, you're going to be reimbursed for all of the losses that you're going to encounter by going to this new streamlined sales tax. Sales tax was going to go to destination based, wherever things were delivered, they were going to be receiving that money. Well, we are a manufacturing, wholesaling, industrial, warehousing industry, and in our valley, and that's a huge impact to us. Ultimately, by the time that they went to determine what kind of mitigation we were deep in a recession. They used the period of July 1 of 2008 through June 30, 2009. So then what ended up happening is the mitigation we received did not even come close to the actual dollars that we were losing in revenue. So during that time, what the city found is that it really had to tap into its nominal fund balance or nominal reserves that it had, nearly depleting the reserve fund balance. I'm really grateful to say today we're in a much different spot. Thank goodness. In 2015, the Puget Sound Regional Council issued an industrial lands analysis, and it outlined the impacts of the streamlined sales tax. They took 2012 data, so the wholesaling and warehousing data from 2012, That report confirmed by far Kent was the biggest loser when it came to SST mitigation. What was also interesting is back in 2012, if SST never came along, the city would have collected $16.8 million in sales tax related from wholesaling and warehousing activities alone. Our mitigation was $4.1 million. So that's an annual loss of $12.7 million. That's $12.7 million in 2012 numbers. I mean, that's 12 years ago. We're in 2014, that's nearly a $20 million a year loss in revenue that we have lost. We were able to get past the whole fiscal cliff, which was great, but the reality is we still have that structural imbalance. And that structural imbalance isn't unique to us. This is something that most local jurisdictions are grappling with. And in recent years, we have seen 40-year highs in inflation figures, with CPIW as high as 9.5%. And when you have a property tax that grows at 1% plus new construction, there is no doubt that our expenditures are outpacing our revenues. So when we start thinking about this economic forecast, this is definitely a very interesting one. There are signs of a recession, yet still there's debate over whether or not we're in one, we're going to be in one. Who knows? We don't know if things are going to get better. Are things going to get worse? And these are questions that most economists truly are grappling with at this time. There isn't a clear answer. So often, our inverted curve is the sign of a recession. And first off, let me give you a definition of what an inverted curve is. An inverted curve is when you can get a higher interest rate on a short-term investment than you can on a long-term investment. So it's better to invest short at the moment. We have been in this inverted curve arena for a long time, couple of years. And this is the longest stretch for something like this, and still they have not yet said that we're in a recession. So what does it mean? Unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball, so I think only time is really going to tell. But right now, the economic data suggests that we're going to have a positive yet slower growth fueled by consumer spending. However, at the same token, we're seeing declines in savings rates, we're seeing increased credit card debt, we're seeing higher delinquencies, and we're seeing a moderating labor market. So how is that sustainable? So inflation trends are beginning to subside a bit, which is great. We're still higher than what the Fed wants us to be at. In fact, they just lowered their federal rate by 50 basis points last week. And so I'm saying all of this. And so why am I telling you all of this? I'm telling you all of this because there is no doubt that we are still at a time of uncertainty. We don't know really what is ahead. And so I want to take some time to really thank the council for taking the time to understand the city's financial condition and all of the things that we've been through. And I want to thank you for your willingness to support a status quo budget as we go into this, and we continue to wait to see what is on the horizon for us. We do know we have some work to do with our budget, the structural imbalance. We still have to find solutions for that. But there's definitely an interesting time, for sure. So I think it's about time that we dive a little bit more now into the 2025-26 budget. Bless you. Okay, so overall, for revenues, we have, this is hard to see on this screen. It looked beautiful on the computer earlier today, so I do apologize. Overall, we have citywide revenues at $886.4 million, with $254.8 million of these revenues in the general fund. Taxes make up $288.9 million of the entire citywide budget. Looking at the expenditures, we have a total expenditure budget of $884 million, with $259.4 million of that within the general fund. When we start talking about, today we'll be talking about the general fund, so we'll dive a little bit more into this. This is just really to give you a broad picture. One of the things that you're going to notice is that our expenditures are greater than our revenues for the total biennium by about $15.7 million. A lot of that has to do with some funding related to the Keyhawk project that is included within this budget. All right, so looking at the position summaries, so we have 2024, the adopted budget, any changes, and then the original budget. And you're going to see a decrease of 2 positions in the information technology department. What that is, they are 2 temporary positions that are set to expire at the end of this year. The first one is a GIS analyst position, and the other one is a network security engineer position. That network security engineer position actually is part of a restructure that's been going on in IT, so that position is sticking around in kind of a different vein, I will say, a different look, but it is still sticking around. There's that TLT position that will be going away. We'll cover a little bit more as we get, I think, 2 more slides down onto what are the new positions that are in the budget. So I'm going to hold tight here, but you can see overall there's 8.37 positions that will be added in the 2025 budget and 1 position in 2026 for a total of 762 FTEs by the end of 2026. Overall, looking at our FTEs per 1,000 population, you'll see we have about 5.4 FTEs per population, which tends to be pretty standard or pretty consistent with where we have been. If you are looking at the chart, there's from 2018 to 19, there were a large number of limited term positions that were added. Those were for the Sound Transit project, the Workday backfill project as they were working on implementation of Workday. There were a couple positions for park levies, and then a couple correction officers. And then in 2020, you'll see there's a dip there, and I'm sure that you're all well aware that that had to do with the COVID reductions that we've taken. We have brought back many of those positions slowly over the years since 2020. All right. The overall general fund revenue. So now we're going to be looking at, if you notice on page 27 of your book, there'll be this information as well. But property taxes are staying pretty consistent, 1% plus new construction. Overall, our general fund revenues are at increasing slowly. Some of this has to do with just slight increases based on what we have seen in trend, while others are the B&O tax, which I'll get into in just a moment. I'll talk to you about some of the changes that will be going on with that. This is, again, just a high-level summary because we're going to get into that in just a moment here. Overall, just looking at our revenue sources, our revenues in our general fund, we're continuing to have the same larger structure of property tax, sales tax, utility tax, and B&O tax being some of our larger items. If you look on page 31 of your book, you'll see the 20% for other. You'll be able to see what makes up that 20% there. And although you're seeing sales tax in 2023 budget made up 26% of the budget versus 25%, sales taxes did not go down. It's just because we had some increase in both B&O taxes and our utility taxes. All right, so page 28 of your book. Like I was saying, property tax 1% plus new construction, there's not much change there. Sales tax, we do have a slight increase in our sales tax. It's not very significant. We are definitely seeing a slowdown in our sales tax right now. We are still coming in below this year's budget, but we are not anticipating seeing the large growth like we were. So you're just seeing a modest increase for both of those. For the utility taxes, we did have some baseline adjustments, so adjusting for trend, and you're going to see our internal utility taxes, electric, garbage, and telephone are all increasing. Gas and cable are both going down in 2025. With B&O tax, there was an ordinance that passed in 2018 in which it had a series of increases to B&O tax that would be coming into play. In 2025, there was an increase in our square footage tax that is scheduled to happen. That increase is estimated to bring in about $3 million in additional revenue related to that. This budget includes a couple other proposals for increases to the B&O tax. One is for the gross receipts of manufacturing. Right now, we have a rate of 0.001, and we are looking to increase that rate to 0.00125. That would generate about $845,000 more in revenue. In addition, we have a cap on our gross receipts for retailing at $20 million. And again, this was implemented back in 2018. The budget includes adjusting this up by CPI up to $25 million, and it would generate, the cap to $25 million, which would generate about $86,800 in additional revenue. There are some baseline adjustments at $833,000. That means the current taxes that we have now, putting them in alignment with what we're actually, the budget in alignment with what we're actually receiving. And then there's baseline adjustment for other taxes such as gambling tax and admissions tax at $137,000. So the B&O tax increases, right now the current rate per year is 0.36 for square footage, and then it's going to go to 0.48 at $3,000 in additional revenue. And again, manufacturing, I chatted about that for the $845,000, and then the cap, the current cap is at $20 million. It would increase to $25 million, and you're wondering, how did we get there? One of the things that we do for many of our revenue streams is we apply CPI to these revenue streams on an annual basis. This is something that we haven't been doing with B&O tax, with this cap. We haven't been doing it in some other spaces as well. We're looking to try to clean that up so we can be pretty consistent with our revenue streams. Back in 2018, the cap was $20 million. So what we do is, when you look at June of 2019 and you get the CPIW, we've applied that to what would be the cap in 2020. So the 1.7% CPI would end up increasing the cap to $20,340 in 2020 if we had that in place. Ultimately, at the end of the day, in 2025, the cap would have been almost $26 million. We're looking to just make it an even $25 million to start this off, and then from this point forward, apply that CPI to it each year. When we start looking at our comparison to other cities, we have several cities listed here. The red line that you see, that is the statutory limit that we can apply to any of the categories of B&O tax. Seattle does have some voter approved or exception to the rule, so they do have some higher rates there. Kent, you can see our current rate is the orange bar you see there, and then there's a light, I think it's light blue. Yeah, we'll call it light blue or light green. I'm not really sure, but it's right next to there. It's also labeled there. The manufacturing rate would go up slightly. That would put us in line with Renton's rate, but that would also keep us lower than Des Moines and Bellevue by making this change. Do you have any questions about this? Because I think this is my last slide on B&O taxes. It is. Yes.
So, any reason why we're not looking at all the revenue stream for CPI?
We do want to look at all of them. This one just happens to be one that I'm looking to open up. And so as we open up these different revenue streams for any updates, we'll be looking at applying CPI to all of them. Yes.
Approximately how many revenue stream do we have?
Well, right now it's already applied to our utilities. They already go up by CPI. We also apply it to our permits and our fire permits. So that all goes up by CPI. I'm trying to think of what is still out there, and off the top of my head, I don't have that answer for you, but I can put that together. This is one of the last, and I think there's still another, and I just can't remember off the top of my head. I know there's another, I just can't remember.
So really, we're leaving one on the table, right? By
Yep,
not
absolutely.
looking at those. Okay.
Yeah.
And with the B&O, I mean, of course we can do this here. Some of the business is going to be impacted by this here. It's going to be a huge of an impact, or what's the deal around that?
I think we wanted to be able to have an opportunity to put this in front of you guys first, get a feel for where you're at. If we get an immediate, okay, yeah, I think this is good to start talking to people, or, oh my gosh, what are you guys doing? We'd like to get that feel before we start going out to the business community, but definitely educating our business community and having these conversations are going to be very important.
We did a little bit of a roadshow when council adopted those increases last time. Again, to Paula's point, didn't want to get out in front of you all, but our economic and community development director back there shaking his head, we already started to talk about what does that look like, and taking a look at who is going to see the biggest impact from this and having those conversations. But again, wanted to make sure that you all were aware that this was something that was being proposed before we.
I'm okay with it. As we go forward, I'm assuming we'll be able to see the details behind whose impact. Is that possible?
Well, because of the confidentiality rules on how
Put
things
the company
work.
A, B, C, D, E. I mean,
Yes,
you don't
I
need to know
can
the
definitely
company.
do A, B, C, D, E. I can come up with a way to be able to keep some information confidential and still be able to give you some insights on what is out there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest things as we were going through this that was shocking to me was around the cap, and some of the really big players that are. They're not paying a B&O tax on a lot of their revenue.
Yeah.
And some of the manufacturing stuff, that's going to be pretty small, but there's definitely some revenue being left on the table.
Absolutely.
I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, so what were some of the other major changes in revenue? As you can see, we did, building and street permits did increase by about $139,970. And then there were some other baseline adjustments at $170,000. For intergovernmental revenue, our liquor excise tax and board profits, those are going down. So there is a budget suggestion book that is published that helps us to understand what we can expect per population, or however a revenue is determined, calculation for a revenue is determined that we would receive. We get that information, those numbers are going down. So you will see a decline in those liquor profits for 25 and a slight increase in 26. Other intergovernmental revenue, there will be an increase of about $68,000 in 25 and $35,600 in 26. For the plan check and review adjustments, we have increases of $664,000 in 24 and $121,000 in 25. And then all the other charges for services, baseline adjustments at $237,000 and $49,000. Fines and forfeitures, we have parking penalties increasing at by $131,000 in 25, and then $4,300 in 26, and then other baseline adjustments would be an increase of $51,600 in 2025 and about $5,000 in 26. Miscellaneous revenue. It's really great right now. We've been doing very well on our interest income. We've been conservative with our budget. We're not trying to over budget, but we are trying to put our interest income a little bit more in alignment with what we really expect to receive, kind of. We're not quite going up to that number. We'd like to be a little bit more conservative there. You're going to see a decline of $270,000 in 2006 compared to 25, and that's because we expect to run down some of our balances. We're beginning to spend down more and more of that ARPA funding. We have major projects that are on the horizon that we know that we're going to be spending down. So we've accounted for reductions in some of our fund balance there. So you will see reductions in interest for 26. Rentals, putting that in alignment at $161,000 for 2025. Reimbursements reduced by $63,000, and then just some other line items reductions at $32,000 for miscellaneous income. We did make some slight baseline adjustments for ARPA, so we have some for not for ARPA, but for transfers. We do have some of our transfers that are based on per capita or how much revenue we expect to get in, so we do have to adjust those slightly. But we do have a bigger adjustment. In 2024, we had about almost $3 million in ARPA funding that was transferred into the general fund. That's not going to happen again, so you're going to see a big decline in transfers into the general fund for that. And then we will see transfers in from the ARPA funding for the race and equity coordinator position, that gap based on what was budgeted before and what we need this time.
Quick question.
Yes.
You think I'm always learning something new. What is rental? What falls in that bucket, for example?
That would be like park rental, like rentals of parks,
Okay.
other facilities, and
Okay.
could be rental, no, it's income. So yes,
Okay,
rentals of
that's
parks.
good. All right.
Yes. All right, and so there's our revenue side of things. Expenditures. So we made some assumptions as we went into the 2025-26 budget. Salary increases for our AFSCME and Teamsters and non-reps, and right now KPOA, we've applied a 3.6% COLA adjustments. 3.6% is what CPIW is as of June, which is what we would base those off of. The KPOA contract is being negotiated this year, so that is a guess on our part. We don't know what that's really going to come in at. In 2026, we did give an estimate of a 2.5% COLA. We are seeing CPI continuing to go down. In fact, the last CPI number that came in is at 3%, which is moving in the right direction. Our self-insurance plans, we do not have any increases for that, to fund that. For retirement plans, our PERS, the employee share, or excuse me, the employer share is 9.11%, and our left two is at 5.32%. Whenever we do a budget, we do supplies and services. We just increase their prior year's budget by 2% for supplies and services. That's a conservative number. If there is a contract for a service that specifically spells out how much is going to cost, if it's more than 2%, we give them whatever that contract that we've agreed to. We adjust their budget accordingly. For our insurance allocations, we are seeing an increase in workers' comp and liability. Workers' comp at 20% and liability 15%. I know those are still double digits, but they're better than they've been looking, which is great. We did put the property tax on there because we've been doing big increases with that one as well in the past. And if you notice, we have 0. So I was really happy to see that because I haven't actually seen these insurance allocations slow down for a while. They're still not where I want them to be, but they are getting better. We are anticipating a 6.5%, a 5%, and a 2.5% increases for workers' comp liability and property insurance for 2026.
So you're expecting 20% in 2025 and then additional 6.5. What's the big gap between the two? Why?
So we're hoping things are going to continue to be better, where we're actually getting it funded at the levels we need to get things funded at. We're hoping it will slow down. It hasn't for a while, but you can only be throwing double-digit numbers at this stuff for so long before it hopefully will. We could be wrong. We could be coming back to you and saying, hey, we made this assumption at 6% and it's really going to be 20%. But I'd like to believe we're moving in the right direction with all of our insurance funds right now. And so I'd like to believe that we would get there.
And looking at the work, historically, over the last, 3-4 years, has it been pretty much in the double digit?
Yeah, it has for how many years now? 3 years. We've been doing double.
Sir, what make you think it's going to drop in 2026? I know I'm just...
Because I want to be optimistic for a minute.
I'm very familiar with worker comps. I'm just saying, maybe
Yeah.
we learn something from you, okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I just want to be optimistic for a minute. And it's really, I'm hoping that because there's not, so if you start looking at the program, there was a lot of through COVID incentive with not workers' comp, that's unemployment, sorry, wrong fund. But I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that,
not
other
gonna
than
bust your
I'm being
bubbles. I'm good.
optimistic.
I'm good.
Hey, it's okay, you can challenge me. I can bump it up, but it would just be one more hit, and I would just like to believe at some point we're going to go back to those normal increases that we had seen before.
Okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Paula, Councilmember Fincher has a question.
Yes.
Thank you. What sort of supplies are these? Paper, pens?
Oh, supplies? It's all office supplies. So it would be whether it's paper, pens,
Offices.
everything, yeah, that you might need to be able to do your job. It could also be not just office supplies, because we have field workers, so they might need certain supplies for them to be able to do their jobs as well.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right. Okay, so looking at, and I'm really sorry again, it looked so great on the computer screen. So general fund expenditures by department. And so when you start looking at this, you're going to see by each of the departments within the general fund what their budgets are looking like. And we'll go a little bit more into detail. This is really just a high level look, giving you what each of the proposed budgets look like line by line. So let's go ahead and go here and talk about some of the adjustments that you'll see. In administration, there is the extension of the TLT position that's going to continue to be paid for by ARPA, and so that will last through 2026. The economic and community development, and oh, by the way, on some of these, you might wonder, why don't I see an FTE if you're going to have this position? And it's because it's a position that really exists. That's the same when we took a TLT and we converted it to permanent. You're not going to see the increased FTE because that FTE is already here. One goes away, one is added, and then they net zero. So just in case you're wondering as to why you don't see all the FTEs there. The economic and community development would add a floodplain certification engineer. There's going to need some setup costs, and then there's going to be a portion of that that's going to be paid for by the drainage fund. They will be converting a TLT position to permanent for a long-range planner, and a tech position, and then also a current planner. And you can see the setup costs there associated with those. The HR department will need continued CVS consulting services. CVS is the consultant that helps us with Workday when we have updates or situations with Workday where we need additional expertise there. So there's $50,000 for the 2026 budget. And then also training to ensure that our people are getting the training they need to be able to do the work that they have. This will be for both payroll and our HR team at $42,600 each year. The law department has an assistant city attorney, and that position is effective in 2026, and so there'll be some startup costs with that. With municipal court, there's the probation officer, and there will be a shift of 75% of the resource coordinator position to the opioid settlement funding. So it's not the corrections officer, but by shifting the resource coordinator to use some of those funds for the opioid settlement funds, we'll be able to offset some of those costs to be able to afford the probation officer. There's also that grant of $75,000 to help with that. The Parks Department will receive $100,000 for NPDES stormwater system management. In addition, they'll be extending a current TLT that they have at the senior center for another 2 years. They are going to convert a part-time program assistant to a full-time employee and have encampment contracted cleanup services at $75,000. Spotlight series, they're going to have increased funding at $55,000, and they're going to use some underutilized budget lines to be able to cover that. And then contracted security services at $50,000 per year. The police department will add 2 new sergeants, a patrol officer and correction sergeant, plus the startup costs related to those. They will also receive additional wellness program funding at $30,000 and IA software for $20,000. That's for the internal affairs. It's that module within the Power DMS system. And then there will be a shift of expenditures to the human services funds of $225,000. That is the human services funding, is the sales tax dollars that came in that sits in human services fund. And so we'll be shifting some of that. There are some increases in internal allocations. So finance, HR, law, and administration, our costs are allocated out to funds outside of the general fund for services that we provide and for the support that we provide to them. And so there is an increase in those allocations for each of those years, and there's also an increase in the street subsidy. So altogether, the general fund will have 6.37 FTEs in 2026 and an additional one, 2025, an additional one in 2026. All right, so today was the first of several workshops that we're going to have. So you're going to have to spend a little bit of time with me over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So October 1st, October 8th, and October 15th, we have workshops that are scheduled. On the one on the 8th and the 15th, we're going to have Marina from Human Services at one of those, and Kristen from ECD. They're going to come during those times as well to be able to present. We will have some public hearings on the budget. The first one is going to be happening next week, and then we'll have a second one on October 15th. We will be, we do have an earmarked October 22nd special council meeting, just like October 8th is there as well. But October 22nd, we'll see if we'll need that for budget. It just depends on how many questions we have and how much we need to be able to go over. Our intent is to come to the Committee of the Whole on November 5th. And when we come on November 5th, the budget team is going to have all of the ordinances and everything ready for you guys to look at related to budget. And the idea is we'll be coming to you, Committee of the Whole, wanting to really finalize the budget and ultimately stamp, but we're just missing that stamp of approval. Typically, we would bring that to you at the second meeting in November for your guys' approval. But what I'm asking is if we can take a little break from that and actually bring it forward to you in December for approval. The reason for that is we have 90 days after you guys approve it to get the budget to GFOA for the award. And we only, during a biennial budget, we run into this problem. We've been having to ask for an extension, and we don't want to ask for an extension. So what we're really hoping we can do is really finalize everything, get it concrete, be done with it. Everyone can enjoy their holidays, and then we can just bring it to you guys on November 5th, and then approve it in December, which is our ultimate goal. So we talked about the budget workshops that are coming up. Next week's budget workshop, we're going to talk about all of the other funds that we didn't talk about tonight. So what's new with them for the 25-26 budget. It's also going to be, now is an opportunity, I'll take questions now, but you're welcome to send me and Michelle questions about anything you want to know about this budget. We'll put those together. We put them on a list. If you guys remember, we log all the questions you guys ask. We figure out who would be best to be able to provide that information to you. We tend to bring them back most of them back to a workshop to be able to answer those. So as you have questions, send those off to us. We'd really like to hear from you to make sure that we're giving you everything that you need to be able to make an informed decision so we can get things all wrapped up by November 5th. Do you guys have questions for me?
Thank you, Paula. Councilmember Fincher, you don't have a question? Oh, all right. Well, thank you so much, Paula, for this presentation, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions over the next few weeks. So as we have done in the past, please send those over to Paula or Michelle, and I'm sure they'll have answers for us at our next meeting, and we have a lot of reading to do. And thank you for presenting this budget. I know it's tough financially, and we have to have a status quo budget. And thank you to all our departments for working with what they have. And we look forward to having these conversations and coming to hopefully a consensus. All right. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. If not, we are adjourned. Thank you so much. See you all next week.